Hello there. Welcome to Blockchain Nuts and Bolts. And this video will be focusing on the introduction part, that's the para 1, and we'll start with the abstract. So the abstract starts as a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. So this comes as the main crux of blockchain. So on the first line, he has mentioned that there will not be any requirement of a third party kind of a mediator, which is invariably required for any kind of financial transactions as on date. So further going ahead, he mentions that digital signatures provide part of the solution, but the main benefits are lost if a trusted third party is still required to prevent double spending. So what this interprets to is that digital signatures have their respective functions, and so basically they provide three important functions. That's the integrity and the authentication and the message non-repudiation. So all these functions are pretty much doing fine, but these benefits are lost if a trusted third party is still required to prevent double spending. So in context of the digital tokens that we are focusing on here in the Bitcoin peer-to-peer transactions, so double spending is a potential flaw in a digital cash scheme in which a same digital token can be spent more than once. So in fiat currency, this double spending problem is relatively lesser known. Otherwise, of course, in case we want to intrude into and discuss about the fake currencies, of course it is there, but now we'll focus about here on the digital tokens. So unlike the physical cash, a digital token consists of a digital file that can be duplicated or falsified by so many methods. So while the digital signatures take care of those three functions, the double spending part for ensuring that double spending does not happen. So majorly the third parties are entrusted to, and it is here that these third parties, by virtue of their mandate or function or the requirement of work, they require the KYC. They require the individual private details of customers. So it is here that this paper is proposing something wherein these third parties can be negated, and this can be taken care by an algorithm. So this we'll discuss later. So we move ahead. So here he further goes on. We propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer network. Okay, the network timestamps transactions by hashing them into an ongoing chain of hash-based proof of work, forming a record that cannot be changed without redoing the proof of work. Now, at the first glance, whenever anybody reads this first, he is bound to get confused. If he is not aware of what network time stamps transaction is he talking about, what hashing is he talking about, what ongoing chain of hash based proof of work, what is he talking about? So you may not connect in case you are not aware of what these terms mean. But these terms have been discussed in few of the videos, and I'll give them in the link again. So we have this proof of work. I have a separate video on this. Basically defines to give a consensus among a peer-to-peer network wherein no peer knows each other, except for the fact that they have a private key and a public key. No peer knows any other peer. So blind transactions are being done. So transactions are legitimate. The peers are authenticated with the help of these digital signatures and all these terms that are mentioned here. So the longest chain not only serves as proof of sequence of the events witnessed, but proof that it came from the largest pool of CPU power. Now this again, at the first glance, in case you are directly coming onto this paper without going through the videos, or in case you are not aware of what chain is he talking about, so you need to get conversant with the concepts of proof of work and the longest chain. So I have discussed this in the one of the videos that I'll try and put an I button, or maybe I'll give a link in the description. So as it is, we are just now discussing the abstract. So as long as a majority of CPU power is controlled by nodes that are not cooperating to attack the network, they will generate the longest chain and outpace attackers. So herein he is trying to mention, and we have to assimilate from here, that the computing power of the millions of nodes is being used to defy attackers, do any kind of double spending, or do any kind, or include any kind of malicious transactions. The network itself requires minimal structure. So this comes as a big boon for anybody wanting to set up a Bitcoin node or planning to do a transaction. So he doesn't need any kind of infrastructure here. He just needs a PC. He just needs a PC with bare minimum essential requirements of CPU, hard disk, and RAM. So messages are broadcast on a best effort basis, and nodes can leave and rejoin the network at will, accepting the longest proof of work chain as proof of what happened while they were gone. So this basically means that while you are doing your transactions, while you come onto the node, you come as a live node, and whether you, irrespective of whether you do any transactions or whether you do not do any kind of transactions, it does not matter to the blockchain, it does not matter to the network whether you are there or not. The entire network is basically collectively responsible for building up the consensus. So here we end up with the abstract. We'll start with the introduction part. So now we come to para 1, that's the introduction. So I'll start reading and then we'll interpret what each line means. Commerce on the internet has come to rely almost exclusively on financial institutions serving as trusted third parties to process electronic payments. Okay. While the system works well enough for most transactions, it still suffers from the inherent weakness of the trust-based model. Okay, now he's trying to bring out that inherently they are all dependent for trust on third parties. So completely non-reversible transactions are not really possible. So while these transactions are being controlled by third parties, are being held or accounted by third parties, these completely non-reversible transactions are actually not possible because they can fiddle with anywhere. So this is what happens while the accounts are frozen or the accounts are transferred based on government policies or any kind of investigation agencies. They try and freeze the accounts, they try and stop the transfers. So that way the paper starts with that basically building up the trust-based model. So there the disadvantage that accrues is that these third parties can meddle with the transactions. They can reverse the transactions and so on. The cost of mediation increases transaction costs, limiting the minimum practical transaction size and cutting off the possibility for small casual transactions. And there is a broader cost in loss of ability to make non-reversible payments for non-reversible services. So basically discussing about the transaction costs. So with the possibility of reversal, the need for trust spreads. Merchants must be wary of their customers, hassling them for more information than they would otherwise need. So here comes the thing about the privacy. So these third-party merchants, these third parties who are basically building, providing some kind of a trust between two peers or doing the basically bank functions. So in the name of accounting or in the name of holding transactions, conducting transactions, they basically hassle the customer by taking from them a number of data points. So like in case somebody wants to open an account, so he has to have a address, phone number and all the KYC formalities that he has to basically come, give and then get enrolled. And this information remains with these third parties, and it is up to them how they use or how they misuse or how they share with other parties. So in case somebody is planning to do a transaction, a simple transaction, he has to compromise his KYC, know your customer information, and that basically consists of a huge number of data points that can be misused at any point of time by anybody. Moving further, a certain percentage of fraud is accepted as unavoidable. So that's inevitable basically. So these costs and payment uncertainties can be avoided in person by using physical currency, but no mechanism exists to make payments over a communication channel without a trusted party. So now he's trying to bring out that though with cash, in case we use the fiat currencies, which is the typical currency, national currency of different respective countries, so then there may be there may be a kind of control that exists, but whenever we try to do this transaction in a non-fiat way, in case we want to exchange currency over a communication channel, over an electronic communication channel, then there is an inevitable need of a third party. So what is needed is an electronic payment system based on cryptographic proof instead of trust. allowing any two willing parties to transact directly with each other without the need for a trusted third party. So he again emphasizes on the fact that in a electronic payment system, if it is made to be based on a cryptographic proof instead of the typical trust being provided by the third party, in case an arrangement is made so that the transaction between two willing parties to do a transaction is based on mathematically strong cryptographic protocols. So if this kind of an arrangement is realized, wherein an algorithm takes over the trust to enable the trust, then this will lead to the negation of the role played by the typical third parties. So transactions that are computationally impractical to reverse would protect sellers from fraud. Okay, and routine escrow mechanisms, okay, the third party could easily be implemented to protect buyers. In this paper, we propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer distributed timestamp server to generate computational proof of the chronological order of transactions. So now in this paper, okay, we propose a solution to the double spending problem. Now double spending problem I had discussed. So in case there is fiat currency, in case I am holding some $10 or 10 rupees, and in case I am planning to spend it, so what will I do? So I will go to the grocery shop, or I'll go to some consumer store goods kind of a shop. I will pay him 10 rupees and I will buy the goods. So that's the case in the fiat currency. But what happens in a digital thing? So in a digital thing, what can happen is that in case I am holding an electronic token, so what kind of a mechanism can make a situation wherein I am unable to spend that token twice or thrice? Because in the digital world, tokens or anything, any digital file or any digital asset can be copied. It can be cloned. So how is that possible in a electronic manner? So moving further, he says the system is secure as long as honest nodes collectively control more CPU power than any cooperating group of attacker nodes. So this means in case there are n number millions of nodes, and in case the honest nodes are collectively controlling maximum of the CPU power, then the adversaries who are trying to break in, then this will their system, what they have proposed, Satoshi Nakamoto, their system is not going to fail. So this we have exhaustively discussed in one of the other videos. Again, I'll try to put the I button, which is basically moving around the proof of work, the Byzantine fault tolerant video that I had discussed in the blockchain concept playlist. So just have a look on that, and therein you'll be able to find of what exactly this computational power Satoshi is trying to mention out here. So this ends up the para 1, and in case you have any doubt on this small paragraph, you are requested to just kindly make a comment in the section, and I'll try to make it amply clear. Thanks.